You're listening to the Unlocking Africa podcast.
My career started as a salesperson, and then eventually I have worked in few organizations with Nestle, FMCG multinational, and I worked for Sony, a career spanning 26 years. I'm able to understand the challenges which a channel partner faces, and then we can maneuver and shape our strategy. We conduct lots of workshops which encourages people doing their storytelling or to communicate their stories through pictures, through videos. Canon is very well aligned to have even better sustainability initiatives in future in African countries.
Stay tuned as we bring you inspiring people who are unlocking Africa's economic potential. You're listening to the Unlocking Africa podcast with your host, Tessa Adamu.
Welcome to the Unlocking Africa podcast, where we find inspirational people who are doing inspirational things to unlock Africa's economic potential. Today, we have Somesh Adukia, who is Managing Director of Canon Central and North Africa. Canon was founded in 1937, and Canon Central and North Africa was founded in 2016. Canon's desire to continuously innovate has kept the company at the forefront of imaging excellence. We are so glad to welcome Somesh. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you, Tessa. Thank you for having me and looking forward to today's podcast. I'm doing well and hope all is good at your end too.
Yes, fantastic. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. But before we get started, as usual, introduce yourself and just give us a brief introduction in terms of who Somesh Adukia is.
Thank you. So currently, as you know, I'm the managing director for Canon Central and North Africa, but my career started as a salesperson. And then eventually I have worked in few organizations back home in my country with Nestle, FMCG multinational. Then I came to Dubai and I worked for Sony and now at Canon. So a career spanning 26 years with lots of learnings. And I try to impart my learnings to my colleagues, to my aspiring individuals within the organization. Some of the key learnings which I have had in my career is to be true to yourself, be always ready, and always listen to the market feedback rather than making assumptions sitting in your office cabin.
Extremely wise words. So as you mentioned, your career started in sales, you've worked in FMCG, worked for Sony, a career spanning 26 years. So I was wondering, through that 26-year journey, are there any early experiences that shaped your values and also your career aspirations?
Sure. So from a academic qualifications point of view, I have done my master's in business administration. And while I was pursuing my master's, I always had an aspiration, I always had an ambition to lead a multinational company or, lead into a strategic position. But immediately after I passed out, I realized that it is not that easy. And that's where my first role in my career was that of a salesperson, come delivery boy, come a merchandiser. And that job actually taught me a lot, a lot of good lessons that, how to establish relationship with your channel partners, how to listen to the feedback of the end users, because I was doing the role of not only salesperson, but also as a merchandiser. So I was able to connect with both channel partners as well as consumers. So I would say that having the grassroots on the ground experience early in my career helped me a lot, that when I am in my position today, I still remember those grassroots experiences. I'm able to relate to the needs of the consumers. I'm able to understand the challenges which a channel partner faces, and then we can maneuver and shape our strategy. So I would say that early experience which I got in my career has helped me tremendously in becoming a leader, what I am today.
So you mentioned that you started as a delivery boy to sales merchandiser to now MD in Africa. So how has your leadership style evolved during that period, specifically during your time in the African market?
So, Canon Central and North Africa was established in 2016. But before that, I was responsible for Levant markets, which stands for Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, and also the North African countries, which were managed by Canon Middle East before the formation of Canon Central and North Africa. And specifically, while working in the African markets, what I was able to realize, what I was able to learn in my career is that the market dynamics of African countries is completely different from what the market dynamics is in the rest of the world, including countries of Middle East as well as Europe. Uh, Also, the challenges which a businessman faces while doing business in Africa is quite different, and also the needs of the consumers are unique, which is typical to a African market. So, based on that, I would say that my leadership has evolved. Being in Africa, is how can I have more patience, and also at the same time, how can I have resilience? Because one of the unique characteristic of Africa is its resilience. You face a lot of economical, socio-political challenges, but if you talk to any African consumer or if you talk to any African business entity, they are always positive, and this is because of the spirit of resilience. So I would say that what I have learned as a leader being in African countries would be patience and resilience.
Interesting. So I guess during the process of practicing your patience and resilience, you've managed to successfully execute or implement different projects or initiatives. Are there any specific strategic projects that you're proud of?
So, in my career of now close to 18 years in Canon, definitely I have got the opportunity of either participating or leading many strategic projects in Canon. But one which I believe is very close to me and I'm very proud of was the setting up of Canon Central and North Africa in the late 2015, whereby we had to create a complete feasibility plan. We had to present it to our CEO on why do we want to have this separate entity as Canon Central and North Africa. What value add will this entity bring to Canon? And once this was approved, to set up the proper business plan, to set up the organization, to create a midterm plan, to start working on the organization structure, recruitments, opening up of local offices in African countries. So that was the time when I was working within my office for close to 12 to 14 hours. And the entire experience was quite enriching. And that's why establishing Canon Central and North Africa is always a project that I'm proud of and very close to me.
I guess the decision to launch Canon Central and North Africa is in line with your theme or the this year's strategy, which is, I believe, ICE, innovation, customer and employer experience. Can you elaborate in terms of what this means and how it shaped your strategy for the African region?
So I would say that initially when we entered African countries, African markets as a dedicated entity in 2016, that time our strategy was back to basics because we felt that there is a lot to be done in African countries and we started with a basic approach. However, by end of 2022, when we finished good 7 years of our operation, it was that time that we realized that the growth which we have achieved in African countries until now, if we want to continue with that momentum, we definitely need to change our approach. We need to have a different strategy. And that's where we thought about this strategy of ICE, which stands for innovation, customer journey, and employee experience. And what I mean by this is, many a times innovation, we relate to product innovations or technological innovations. But here at Canon Central and North Africa, of course, Canon as a multinational company invests a lot into research and development, coming out with new products, new technologies year after year. However, here we were focusing on innovation that is directly under our control, that is at local Dubai team and the African offices team. So here from innovation, what we were aiming at is to introduce newness in anything and everything what we would be doing in Africa. And in the recently concluded Executive Circle Partner Conference, which we had in Cyprus earlier this month, my direction under innovation was to have new focus countries, because we have a huge geography in Africa of 40 countries. And I can say that while we have made very good progress in many of the countries, there are still some countries where our market share needs betterment. And that's where, this new focus countries is one of the approach under the umbrella of innovation, followed by new focus products, because we have a wide portfolio of our products. But is every product of Canon being sold and presented in Africa? And that is something, which we would like to do under innovation, followed by new customer segments. So, of course, you talk about cameras, that is a home user or a professional camera person, or in terms of printing devices, you come across small office or home user, or big corporations. But in addition, Canon has a lot of new products like broadcast lenses, like cinema cameras, whereby the customer segment is very different. You want to talk about a filmmaker, you want to talk about content creators, and we want to capture this new customer segment through our products and solutions. So that is something which we wanted through innovation. From a customer experience point of view, we wanted to take care of the entire customer journey, right from the concept where the customer thinks of buying a camera or a printer, that how Canon can be, his or her engagement point, until, the person has already bought a Canon product, and even after that, through our service and solutions. And finally, from employee experience point of view, I strongly believe that an organization completely depends on well-being and the skills levels of its employees. And it is important that we regularly upgrade the skills of our people. We create an atmosphere in the organization where people feel happy, where people feel empowered. And we believe that if our people's skill levels are upgraded, if our people are feeling engaged, if our people are feeling empowered, then they will also be able to take over our direction and cascade it further at the market level, and provide the much needed value add to our business partners as well as consumers. So that's the reason that we formed this strategy of ICE, which is innovation, customer experience, and employee experience, keeping in mind the evolution of Africa and the African consumers.
So you mentioned you went from back to basics to ISO. I guess I'm assuming the change of strategy was made to enable you to access those opportunities and to better serve customers and your employees. So if we look at opportunities, what key growth opportunities do you see for Canon in Africa?
So it lies in both Canon and Africa.
Yes.
And let me explain to you. First of all, as I said, Africa has a huge geography. So as Canon Central and North Africa, we manage 40 countries across Central, North, but also West and East Africa. We have realized that while we have good presence in 30 odd countries, there are still 10 countries, predominantly in the western part of Africa, where we feel that we do not have the complete visibility of our operations. And that's where we would like to focus on in order to enhance and thump our presence in these markets in West Africa. So that lies a big opportunity for us as far as geography of Africa is concerned. And secondly, from a Canon perspective, we have a big product portfolio ranging from input to output solutions. We are the only brand, in fact, in the industry, which can boast of having both input to output solution. We have input products like cameras and as well as output products like printing devices, both in terms of home users as well as big corporations. So are we having all the products in African markets? Can we see an opportunity to develop our new range of products like broadcast lenses, like cinema cameras, like professional printers, like large format machines? And this is where we see a big opportunity in African countries, because amidst the various challenges which African countries keep on facing on a timely basis, it also offers a lot of opportunities. And one big opportunity, if I want to name, is the existence of youth as a population. So it is expected that by the end of 2025, 65% of Africa's population would be less than 25 years of age. And that becomes a big opportunity for Canon to target in such a big geography, such a youth population. So this I would summarize as the opportunities which we are focusing on in our midterm plan for the next 3 years.
Brilliant. As you mentioned, you manage 40 countries across the continent. I was wondering if we can specifically focus on a few countries, because I know you have market expansion plans, specifically within markets such as Sudan, Libya, Rwanda. What was the reason behind those specific markets?
So in Sudan and Libya, historically, Canon enjoys a good demand. Although we have not been physically present in both these countries because of the regular political challenges which both these markets have been facing, and now we want to capitalize on this demand and have a better presence of our products through our partners. Of course, still we are not traveling to these two countries, but through our mapping exercises, what we have identified is that who are the channel partners, who are the business partners who deal in both these countries. So we have now identified the right business partners. We are now penetrating into the channel through the in-country based channel partners as far as Sudan and Libya is concerned. The reason for selecting Rwanda in East Africa is we found that Rwanda is a very stable country. It has a consistent GDP growth, and economically also it is progressing well. So our team did a visit in Rwanda market. We were able to map the entire country in terms of channels, in terms of opportunities that exist. We also mapped the presence of our competitors. And based on this study, we decided to enter into Rwanda through our identified channel partners. So I would say this was our approach. And so far, I would say that we have had a good start, but it's a long way to go in order to thump our presence in these markets.
Thank you for sharing that. I know from experience going into those markets requires a unique approach with a focus on not just the commercial, but also the social impact. I know Canon have some social initiatives like the Marisha program and the Young People program. I was wondering, what was the purpose behind setting up those programs, and what impact are you hoping to make on the communities that you operate in?
Okay, so I would say that these two programs are as a result of our company's corporate philosophy, which is a Japanese word called as Kyosei. In simple terms, what this philosophy means is that as a brand, we would like to contribute to the betterment of the society where we are doing business. And African markets, pose a lot of opportunities because we are, doing a very decent business now in African markets. And we wanted to support the betterment of the African society, of the people of Africa in our capacity. So based on this philosophy, we first introduced this Marisha program, which is again a combination of two words, Mirai in Japanese and Maisha in Swahili, which is a language of Kenya.
Yes.
Mirai in Japanese means future, and Maisha in Swahili means livelihood. So through this program, what we do is we provide future livelihood opportunities to African people, because what we have identified is that unemployment is one key issue, which African markets and African people are facing. So what we do is in various countries of Africa, where we launched our program Miraisha, we have picked individuals and then we have provided them training in photography and videography. We have not charged them anything for this training. We have empowered them, and then as a result of it, post the training, these trained people have made photography and videography as their profession and as a means of livelihood. So this is what Miraisha program stands for. The program was launched in 2015, and this year we are actually celebrating the 10th anniversary of Miraisha program. And I can say that I'm very proud that till date we have been able to successfully train 7,000 plus people across Africa under the Miraisha program. And going forward, we have plans that in the next 3 years, this number will go past the mark of 10,000 as well. As far as young people program is concerned, so this program is targeting the age group anywhere between 7 years to 40 to 18 years. And here our basic aim is to train the people on the art of storytelling, again through photography. So I would say that we conduct lots of workshops which encourages people, for doing their storytelling or to communicate their stories through pictures, through videos. And eventually at a later stage, when they become experienced, they get some qualification, then eventually we train them to take bigger professions where photography and storytelling becomes a big part, for example journalism. So I would say that these two programs have been running very well. As far as young people program is concerned, in African countries in the past 8 years we have held 500 plus workshops, and we have trained more than 3,000 people under the young people program. And both these programs have been able to provide good employment opportunities in the African countries for the youth in Africa. So I would say that we have contributed to this social cause in line with our corporate philosophy of Kyosei in African markets.
Sounds great. Social initiatives, I believe, have a huge contribution to sustainability. How do you believe Canon's approach to sustainability aligns with the overall business strategy?
So certainly, sustainability is becoming very, very important across the globe, including African countries. It is very important that we conserve, and preserve the environment in which we are operating, not only from a business perspective, but also, in our daily lives. And as Canon, we are quite aware of our responsibilities to take care of sustainability, to have sustainability initiatives in each and everything, what we are doing as far as our business is concerned. To give you a few examples, I would say that although we are a technological company, our products are being used regularly, and with the regular use comes a lot of wear and tear. But we are constantly working so that our products have a long life, so that we do not have to replace, or our consumers do not have to replace the products in say 4 or 5 years, but rather they have a long life, because then it also saves the environment, because we will be using lesser number of materials and plastics which are used in making and devising our products. Similarly, all our products go through regular ISO certifications. It takes the right kind of power supply so that they are more energy efficient, and again, contributing to the environment. So certainly this is an important subject, and Canon is very well aligned to have even better sustainability initiatives in future in African countries.
I guess whilst discussing social impact and sustainability, we can't ignore areas such as diversity and inclusion. From your perspective, what does diversity and inclusion look like for Canon, specifically on the continent?
Well, as an organization today, we can say that we are now 150 people spanning across the 6 offices in Africa, as well as our headquarter office in Dubai. And the first thing which we have done with regards to promoting diversity, inclusion, and also equity in that regard is to set up the right goals, because many a times diversity, equity, and inclusion uh, become a buzzword, but unfortunately, there has been a lot of misinterpretation and misunderstanding. So, first thing what we have done is to set the right goals for diversity, equity, and inclusion across Canon, Central, and North Africa. Once these goals are set, then we conducted training about these initiatives, about the importance of diversity, equity, inclusion, about our goals, and devising our strategies on how we are going to able to achieve these goals in Africa and at our office. So we conducted trainings for our people leaders, and on a regular basis, on a daily basis, on a regular practice, we are conducting lots of initiatives which creates this atmosphere and awareness about diversity and inclusion. For example, we have celebrated in the past International Women's Day at all our offices. This month, we are actually celebrating the International Men's Day, in which we are conducting lots of activities focusing directly on the health and well-being of our male colleagues. Because normally, when it comes to DEI, we only talk about or only think about women colleagues or women consumers. But here, diversity is a bigger subject which includes gender equality and not just one particular gender. So this is something which we are regularly doing. We celebrate lots of different festivals across different religions. So we celebrate Christmas, we celebrate Eid, we celebrate Diwali across all our offices once again. So I would say that we actually live with the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion. From an inclusion perspective, it is very, very important that we give the right kind of respect and empowerment to our people. And in order to do that, what I have introduced since last year is communication clubs based on the various category of people in our organization. What I mean by segmentation is people who fall under Gen Z because they are young, but at the same time, they do not have experience in Canon. We have an ACE club which comprises of people who have spent a considerable number of years in this organization. We have a club of innovation whereby people want to contribute, but they want to have a voice. So collectively, these clubs give me an important platform where I can listen to our people, where I can understand their challenges, when I can have a view on their ideas on how we can progress as an organization. So I would say that DEI is, as a principle, is well understood and is being implemented at the right level and at the right path as far as the execution of this program is concerned in Canon Central and North Africa.
All of this, I guess, sets up a solid foundation for the future. So if you look at other ways of setting foundations, I know technology is a huge part of the organization. So what role do you see technology and maybe digital transformation playing in Canon's growth in Africa?
So entire world has seen a lot of changes, including Africa, post the COVID pandemic. Because at one particular time, the life had completely gone on a standstill, whereby nobody was aware that what should be the next move and how should we be able to come out of it. But as humans, we devise our ways, and that's what pandemic had a lot of learning as well. And one such learning was the digital transformation, especially in African countries, because I would say that to a larger extent, in European countries, digital transformation already began, a decade back. But in Africa, I would say that the digital transformation, the importance of digitizing our documents, importance of archiving our records on a digital platform, there was a good awareness, there was a good realization of that. And we as Canon definitely help our partners as well as end consumers in this transition of digital transformation. We have some dedicated products like DIMS, we call digital imaging solutions, whereby this supports your transition into digital transformation. So I would say that through our regular products like DIMS, through our regular communication with the partners, by having a proper understanding, I would say that we are being able to, have this digital transformation as a subject being achieved in African countries. And most importantly, I would also say that the youth population in Africa is increasing. So it's not only about digital transformation, but also about the evolution of new technology, because the youth in Africa is fearless and they want to try their hands out on the new technologies. They want to come out with the products which has new features which was not there in the past. So I would say the combination of learnings from the pandemic and the emergence of youth as a population in Africa gives us good opportunity in introducing our new innovations and technology in Africa, and also meeting the needs of digital transformation.
As you noted, changes such as COVID were a huge challenge. So if you look at the current in terms of what's happening now, what are the biggest challenges Canon faces in the region, and what are you doing, or what methods or strategies are you using to address them?
So the biggest challenges which we face in African countries are related to socio-political and economic challenges. Predominantly, many of our countries are suffering with the currency depreciation versus US dollars, and this directly impacts inflation, which rises because of this depreciation of local currency. People tend to suffer by meeting their basic needs versus buying products of Canon, which then can come under luxury products, not a must-have, versus the basic necessities of life. Even after the currency depreciation, if businessman wants to do business and wants to import products, then the availability of US dollars at a higher rate also is limited in the financial system of the African countries. So I would say that these are the three big challenges from economic point of view. And political climate in African countries is always volatile, and we have to keep in mind the various changes and developments that happens in this regard. How we try to overcome them is the good part which we take it is that these are big challenges. These are not easy things, but these are not new challenges. African markets has been witnessing these challenges in the past as well. And now that Canon Central and North Africa is finishing 9 years of its operations, we are also, somehow being used to, seeing these challenges and managing these challenges. The most important thing which we do is keep our communication channel on with our partners as well as our end users in Africa. We go with a long-term strategy, not a short-term one. So if a country is facing challenge today, we do not stop our activities completely in that country. If I give you an example of Egypt, since the last 2 years, Egypt was facing a lot of such kind of challenges, which I had mentioned. But we, rather than withdrawing our investments, invested in our people. We started to hire more people in Egypt. We renovated our office in Egypt. We continued with our marketing campaigns in Egypt. And now that Egypt is trying to come out of these challenging scenarios, the brand and the products which come to a consumer's mind is Canon, because Canon was present when the challenges were there. So now we have somehow not only captured the market share, but also the mind share of our consumers. So I would say that keeping the channels of communication on, having the experience of managing these challenges in the past, and the spirit of resilience and keeping in mind the long-term strategy rather than a short-term view are the ways whereby we face these challenges and successfully overcome them.
So if we keep to the theme of overcoming the challenges with a long-term view, the long-term view leading us into the future, what is your vision for Canon Central and North Africa for the future, say over the next 5 years? How do you see Africa evolving in terms of helping creatives bring their vision to life?
So as a vision, I would say that this year we are expecting to end at a turnover of close to 300 million euros. And in the next 3 years, I am assuming Our vision is that we would make Canon Central and North Africa 500 million euro organization, which means we are aiming at average growth of double digit 10% year on year for the next 3 years. And the reason why we are having this vision is because we see a lot of opportunities in African countries. We believe that the geography of Africa is very wide. Our huge product portfolio has an offering to most of the consumers in African countries, the existing ones as well as the ones which are evolving with the evolution of Africa. Also, apart from the youth population, which is a big plus point for the future of Africa, helping them in bringing their creatives to the vision in life. I would say that there has been a lot of investments in many African countries in areas like infrastructure, in areas of healthcare, as well as construction and education. And if I have a close look on these projects of infrastructure development, healthcare, construction, education, this is only showing signs of prosperity. That means, African economies, African countries, African markets are going towards a progressive vision. And from Canon's perspective, we have the right presence in African countries. And also with our product offerings, we believe that we can be a strong partner in this journey of Africa and African government in transforming from where we are today to this future development of sectors like infrastructure, healthcare, construction, and education through our products and solutions.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Somesh. Love hearing about your insight and the information and what you're seeing in the market. Interestingly, today we have a new feature on the podcast. It's something which we've not done before. We're introducing it today, especially for Somesh. It's our rapid fire question. Hopefully we can keep it to 60 seconds. So please, no long answers, Somesh. Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
What one word best describes your leadership style?
Inspirational.
What leader do you most look up to?
John F. Kennedy.
The first thing you do when you start your day?
My daughter right now lives in US, so first thing which I do is to check my mobile if she has sent me any message.
Amazing. What's the one habit all successful leaders should practice?
To create positivity in the organization so that people can feel empowered and express their ideas without any fear.
One piece of advice you'd give to your 20-year-old self?
Go for it without much hesitation.
Favorite Canon product and why?
A traditional one, and I would say a Canon calculator, because Canon calculators are very handy, useful, and stylish. So I would say
Amazing.
that I would go for Canon calculators as my favorite Canon product.
One skill you think everyone should have?
Patience.
What's your go-to stress relief activity?
Yoga and cricket.
If you could have dinner with any historical African figure, who would it be?
Definitely late Mr. Nelson Mandela.
Fantastic. What's your favorite podcast? Think carefully.
I would say that, or let me confess that I'm not much into podcasts. However, I feel that with lots of evolution and the various changes which the world is facing today, I need to shift myself also to podcast gradually. So I would say that right now I'm not able to answer your question by saying this is my favorite podcast, but maybe after 6 months if we meet again, then I can answer this question.
Fantastic. In one word, what's the best thing about being a leader?
I would say as a leader, you call the shots and then you stand by it. If there are any issues, then you are the leader, resolve it. Take your decision and then stand by it. This is the best thing as a leader you can do.
Hey, we need to stick to one word, Somesh. In one word, how do you think your direct reports will describe you?
Innovative.
What's the corporate buzzword you think we should retire for good? I like that.
Time for Africa or Africa Rising, because I
I
believe
agree with Africa Rising.
these are just becoming words in corporate PowerPoint presentations, but reality is much different. So we should stick to reality rather than these corporate buzzwords.
What's the most valuable lesson you've learned from failure?
Never be complacent and need to spread your eggs in many baskets rather than in one basket.
If you could implement one change in the print industry, what would it be?
Raising awareness on the benefits of print media.
And last one, what's one quality you think every emerging leader should develop early in their career?
Listening.
Brilliant. Thank you, Somesh. We've come to the end of today's podcast. It's been a great conversation. Awesome to hear about your huge impact and also the work as a multinational such as Canon is doing in terms of taking a unique approach to entering the African market with both commercial and social impact, which I guess is a template or blueprint that I think others should also follow. So it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you, Tesser. It was my pleasure, and thank you for your time, and look forward to connect with you in future as well.
Thank you to everyone who has listened and stayed tuned to the podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, or tell a friend about it. You can also rate, review us in Apple Podcasts or wherever you download your podcast. Thank you, and see you next week for the Unlocking Africa podcast.